It's Rick Jansen in Denver, Lee Jennings in Seattle, coming at you with part 5 of a series we're calling The Fastest Way to 150K. Lee, I didn't prep you for this, but what significance does $150,000 have for a newer agent? Because you're 2 years into the business as in sales. You've been around a lot of new agents. What impact does 150,000 have as a mindset or as a goal?
It's a giant mental barrier. And it's kind of funny when you just said like the name of this show or episode, whenever I think about that, I think back to a year ago in January when, that I kind of had like a breakout year last year. And part of it was, I think as a newer agent, it's very hard to believe that you can make that type of money in a short period of time. And like last January, so this would have been January of 2020. I'm thinking about, I think I made like $96,000 in like 3 months or 4 months or something. And that kind of like springboarded me forward to, you can obviously do many different things with that. You can put it into marketing. You can hire, a transaction coordinator. You can hire an assistant. You can save it. You can do whatever you want. But that's like a huge mental breakthrough to do that. And for me, it really, honestly, it occurred over like basically like 90 days, and there was obviously a lot of lead up to that. There was a lot of things that had to happen to make that possible. But I think once you've done it, then you're like, A, I've done it. I know how to do that. And B, what else is possible,
Right.
But now that I've been at that pace, I know I can go at probably a higher pace, So
you just made our next series 90 days to 90K.
There you go. Yeah. And full transparency, like the fall of 2019, I was in addition to all my prospecting efforts on the phone, I was doing 16 open houses per month. So I was doing 2 open houses per day each weekend, like Saturday, Sunday, and doing all of my prospecting, which, I was definitely, it was a lot.
Well, we didn't talk about open houses as a source of lead generation, and with people getting vaccinated, with all the states loosening their rules, obviously you still have to follow strict COVID protocols. But what role, or how does one leverage an open house? Whether if you don't have any listing, there are a couple different ways, right? You don't have any listings, or you do have listings. Maybe your office has listings. How do you leverage an open house? Because that's a really aggressive strategy, and I love it, quite frankly. 2 a day.
So a great mentor who I had a while back, who I'm good friends with and respects, still, she's fantastic. But she basically told me, if you're going to take the time to do an open house, let's say you have an average listing in your market and you're going to do an open house for 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Your mentality going into that open house needs to be that from this open house, I'm going to get 1 appointment, period. That is the goal. That is your goal at that, 2 or 3 hour period. So if you have people coming to the open house and you have them sign in, you get their name, their email, and their phone number or what have you, you talk to them about the house and about what their goals are or why they're there, all that sort of thing. Your goal needs to be to set an appointment from that open house. And I think a lot of people who begin, doing open houses, they feel like they're just sort of there to be there. They don't have a plan.
It's like, oh my gosh, I have an open house I have to do.
Right.
I'm going to put up 10 signs, sit there, maybe have some music, maybe have some cookies. That's it. Right. And then when no one shows up, I can tell people my open house didn't work.
Right. Well, and they're way too passive. I mean, it brings me back to my first deal in Washington, which was like it was like spring of 2019, and I was just getting started here, and I had just gotten licensed in Washington. This is obviously pre-pandemic, pre all of that. I was at an open house. It was a 1-bedroom condo. It was a very low price point, and I had a cold. I wasn't feeling very well. I was like, it was one of those things where like it was. I was down for like 3 or 4 days, and I committed to doing this open, and I went anyway, and I really didn't want to be there. And I felt pretty awful. My head was like all messed up, and I went anyway. And I was there for like 3 hours and I only had maybe 3 people come through. Condo open houses can be tough because it's hard to access the building. And if you're only one person, oftentimes you're missing traffic because you don't have somebody outside who's like directing people inside.
Yeah.
So I was like literally sitting there wallowing in my misery. And this mom and her daughter, I think it was her mom and her daughter, just fantastic people who I'm friends with now, came in and they were like, we want to buy this condo. Like now, like we want to buy the condo now. We're interested in this property and we don't have an agent and we'd like to write an offer now. And it wasn't my listing. It was another listing agent. I hadn't even taken a listing in Washington yet. I didn't even know how to do it. I didn't even know the paperwork. And I was like, okay. And I just like, you know, the fog is like clearing and the cobwebs in my head. I'm like, oh, I feel so bad. And so over the course of the next 24 hours, I write this up. And it was funny because the listing agent was somebody in the office I was at the time. And she was honestly kind of annoyed because she like didn't really want to work with me. I mean, she was like happy to get the buyer, but she really like wasn't psyched that I was repping them because I was like brand new and green and it was kind of frustrating to have to deal with me. And I wrote the offer, and I mean, it was my first deal here in Washington. I'll never forget. It was $238,000, which in my market is a very small deal. And we got it closed, and it was like a thing. And it was like, you know, so.
And boom, there's like $6,000 in your pocket, right? For an open house.
Well, it would have been, except I was at the wrong brokerage, and I was on I think I remember I did the math on that deal, and I think I made like 48 or 49% of the total because I was at another brokerage. So anyway, but it was a win in the sense that it was like a lightning strike. It was like, why do you do open houses? Well, sometimes that can happen. Like right. I remember walking the property with them. It was this little condo. It was super cute, but it was this little condo, 1 bed, 1 bath, like very small. And they're like saying all these things. They're like, yeah, this is perfect. We're going to put that here. We're going to do this. And I was like, I mean, it was obvious to me, and they were qualified. I could tell, like, they were like, yep, they gave me their pre-approval letter, and they're like, we want, go ahead and write it up, and we're going to do this. And I was like, I'm like, and even all the way to the closing table, like we get to the closing table like a month later, and it's actually one of the only, I don't attend a lot of my closings just because I work with this title company that's like cloud-based a lot of time. And my title company is so good that I don't even feel like I need to be there. Plus, sellers and buyers aren't always there at the same time. These days there's mobile notaries and stuff like that. So anyway, but that was one of the few closings that I actually attended, and they were like really excited. It was like, obviously it was like a month later or like 40 days later. And I'm still sitting there thinking to myself how shocked I am that this is actually happening. And like, this is actually working. So, yeah. And I remember like maybe a month before that, I was at some kind of a live event, and somebody got up, another agent got up and said that they were doing 16 or 18 open houses per month, and their business was growing because of that. And I thought to myself, I wouldn't want to base my whole business on that, but like, if you really need to do something, if you really need to push your business forward and jumpstart it, that's a way to do it. Like, yeah. It's a lot of time, but I mean, if you go in with the right mindset, which is you need to get an appointment out of an open house, period. That's, and I mean, and then later on, like spring of 2020, it was January of 2020. I think I did $2.6 million in deals in like January and February of 2020 because of 2 open houses I had attended like in the fall of 2019.
Yeah. Well, and I remember doing an open house on a listing I had, and it was about 950 million, somewhere in that range. And it rained nonstop that day. I was open for 3 hours and like 2 people came through. And I'm thinking, what a complete waste of my time, right? Yeah. But this nice couple came through. We ended up talking. They're like, yeah, this isn't the right house for us. What's your time frame for buying? Oh, probably in about a year, because we just signed a lease. And so they were on this like $4,000 a month lease. And I started exploring more, and they're like both anesthesiologists. And they said, well, what if I could get you out of your lease? Probably the right bet is we start shopping now. You can start getting a feel for the market, and if something happens, we'll figure it out then, right? So the next week we go out, And the way they describe it, they're like, Rick, you showed us 7 houses. Everyone got better. And the last one was the one they wanted to buy. So $1.2 million, we go under contract. And I just say, look, I'm going to find you a sublessee for your, for your place for free. Went in, did a photo shoot, ran all the ads, screened it by their landlord. The landlord then said, yeah, sure, I'll take this tenant. So the tenant took over the lease. My clients were free and clear. At the end of that lease, the landlord gave me a shot at listing the property. The people who bought the 1.2 then ended up buying up in the mountains for about 550 or 600. They bought another place, and they've referred me 2 clients. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you never know what can come from it. But those are both lightning strike stories, right? Those are why people, that's for people who are like putting in no effort, right? You show up, lightning strikes. We have 4 minutes left today, and we'll wrap this up tomorrow. How do you plan for an open house? How does a successful 150K a year realtor approach it differently than a rookie who does 40K a year?
So you're going to be very intentional about what you're doing in the lead up to it. So like, we were talking, it was a couple of days ago now, but I leverage Cole Realty there. So I'm going to pull a list of the 100 nearest homes. Particularly if it's a unique property, like if you're in an area like that's maybe more rural, or you're in an area that's like maybe not like the center of town, it's really important to get people at the open, because so like local people who are neighborhood people, because those people know people who would want to live in the neighborhood. People think and people think an open house is about finding buyers. An open house is about finding sellers, and you have to like recalibrate your vision towards, you want to be listing other homes in that subdivision. Clearly, you're going to do, so I pull data out of Cole Realty. I'll pull the 100 or 200 closest addresses, and I can get maybe 70% of cell numbers that are in that subdivision. And then I'm going to slide dial every single one of them and let them know that there's going to be an open X date. You want to give it a few days lead time, obviously. I get a huge response out of that. So I'm going to go ahead and...
What's your script? Because one script I've used before is like, hey, this is Rick Jansen, eXp Realty. Just wanted to let you know, 123 Main, we're going to be holding an open house on Saturday, just in case you see a huge bump in traffic from 11 to 2. We've done a lot of marketing on this home. We're going to drive a lot of traffic and really boost prices in your neighborhood, which is going to be great for your home value. But again, I just wanted to let you know there's going to be a lot of traffic. Don't be alarmed. We're just having an open house, and our marketing really drives buyers.
This is one of those things where like this, it's kind of funny. Like my coach always says, 99.9% of agents are simply not doing this, period. So if you're doing it, if you're going to slide dial and have a voicemail and just let them know that this is the property and I'm going to be holding it open and I will be there, you're like worlds ahead of so many other people in this industry. I'm just being
what's your script? What do you say?
I say, this is Lee Jennings with eXp Realty. I'm going to be holding an open house at so-and-so address this coming Saturday from 1 to 4 p.m. And I really hope you can make it. It's a fantastic listing, and I will see you there. If you have questions, I can be reached at 206-419-8303. Click. And I get like a crazy amount. I mean, I'll literally have like, I have seriously had like 30% of the people that I slide dialed show up, which is like insanity.
It is.
They like are shocked that you're doing that like outbound. And then there's other things you can do to make your open special, but that's kind of one of my like Jedi tricks that I play on people, and it really, really works. You're going to bring people in, and then it's the other thing too is like at the open, people have a horrible habit of not getting people's contact info, and so I just simply ask. I'm like, the seller would like to know everybody who toured their home. If you could just please sign in. And then sometimes I get them at the beginning, sometimes it's at the end, but I do make everybody sign in. It's just one of those things.
And for better, for worse, COVID is wonderful for that, because you can just say, hey, we're following protocols. Obviously we're only letting one family in at a time, but we want to do tracing and be proper about this. So for the safety of you and the seller, and just for the security of the home, could you please sign in?
Right.
And bam. And on the bottom of the sign in, you can do it on an iPad, you can do it on a legal pad, but somewhere on there you say, I agree to be, on your email newsletter.
So after they show up, I mean, I put them in a campaign, like whether it's a buyer or a seller campaign. And it's funny, Ben Kinney that's one thing that he actually gave me was, he was like, that's your in the open house script is, there's basically two reasons why people come to an open house. Either they're looking at buying in the neighborhood, or they are wanting to see what this home is like because they're looking at selling. Now, and so which one are you?
Nice.
And you shut up, and they'll tell you. Like
flat out ask them.
Yeah, just ask them. It's just ask them. That's something that people in our industry just won't do, and that's probably one of the number one things in our industry that kills people's income is they simply won't ask the question. And then ask
the right question and then shut up.
Yeah. Just ask the question, and if you stop talking, you are in effect making them answer, because they're going to sit there and think about what you asked until they answer. So it's like you just got to wait and let it come, and they will tell you why they're there.
One of the funniest questions, but it's effective, that I've heard is, how would you use this room?
Yeah.
I mean, you could say it about a bathroom. You could say it about a kitchen. You could say it about a living room. It's hysterical. Like, you're standing in the kitchen. How would you use this room?
Right.
And you're thinking to yourself as you ask it, what a dumb, obvious question, but they may cook, they may not, right? Mm-hmm. They may entertain, they may not. You don't want to put on them your lifestyle, right? But you want them to picture themselves in the house.
Yeah.
And so, like, oh yeah, the kids would be over there, or my wife would be over there, or my husband would be over there. I'd be cooking, we'd be entertaining, but get them to start imagining the journey as the buyer.
Right.
And then another thing is, make sure you have a print, and we're over time, so we'll cut it short and continue open houses tomorrow, but make sure you have a list of comparable homes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so if someone is a buyer, you say, hey, what part of this home, worked for you? Right. Mm-hmm. They tell you, and, so are you ready to write an offer today? Nah, the backyard was too small. Okay, great. Well, check this out. And you pull out your list and you say, look at this. And you've taken some notes on the side. This one has a great backyard. Love this one. This one also has a great backyard. I get out of here at 3:00. Do you want two of those at 4:30?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I've got to, run around and pick up all my signs and everything else, but I could even do it at like 3:45. Mm-hmm. Can I meet you over there at 3:45, or would you prefer I pick you up?
Yeah. No, I've literally had.
You close someone for a tour same day, right after. I mean, if you're doing an open house from 10 to 12 and one from 1 to 3, you make sure you have time at 4:00 scheduled for tours, because that person just met you. They like you. They trust you. You showed value. You have a list of properties. You've pre-screened them. Alternatives to the one you're sitting in. And they're going to be like, wow, Lee shows value.
Right.
Maybe I should hang out with Lee for a little bit.
Right. And that's the best possible scenario. I've done buyer consults at the end of opens. I've done listing appointments at the end of an open. That's the best. I mean, that's the best possible scenario. And that's what going into the open, that's what you need to be going for, period.
And I think, to start off, 2 a day for a weekend might be a little aggressive for some people, but you know what, if you're going to do one, do it right, prep for it, circle prospect around it, door knock the morning of, whatever, just like run around 100 homes, give yourself an hour and a half to do that, and just say, hey, look, I just want to remind you, Lee Jennings, eXp Realty are going to be having an open house from 1 to 4. You might have gotten my voicemail, just wanted to make sure you had my invitation. Print out a bunch with your business card, leave it behind for people who aren't there. Go to the open house, have this, the competitive homes list with you, and then make sure you have a 2 or 3 hour time block after your open house, not to go have beer with your friends, not to go clean the yard at your own house, but to do business, generate business, be present for buyers and sellers. And guess what? If nothing comes of that day, use that 2 or 3 hours to prospect. Use that 2 or 3 hours to go back and door knock and tell people, hey, thanks for coming to the open house, or hey, we had a great turnout today. Sorry I didn't see you. Do you have any questions about it? Go do a neighborhood tour on your cell phone and post it on YouTube. Do something productive with that time that was just freed up.
Well, and that's the thing. I get the question all the time, how do I jumpstart my business? I mean, that's one way to jumpstart your business. I'm sorry, but if you do 16 or 18 open houses in a month, something will happen. I don't know what, but something's going to happen.
And you know what you can do too? 1 a day. I mean, if you're going to work 2 or 3 hours a day anyway, do it. Don't do it in a brick and mortar office, which are obsolete. You can work in the cloud like we do at eXp. You can work in the cloud. You can access everything from anywhere. hotspot your phone on your iPad and your laptop. You don't even need the owner's Wi-Fi. But like at EXP, we have a board of open houses. Like we have a Colorado open house board, and you can say, hey, I'm free from 4 to 6 every day this week.
Oh,
who can I hold open, and grab people as they're coming back from school, picking their kids up from school, coming home from work, and work. And if you're, especially like if you're single, you don't have to be home for dinner. From 4 to 6 every day, you can be sitting in an open house, working out of somebody else's listing, and pick a price point that you actually want to work. Shoot for like 800 to $1.2 million, right? Okay. And just be like, hey, I'm going to be holding open houses 5 days a week, and I don't want to work weekends, right? Maybe I don't want to work Saturday, Sunday. Maybe I want to set some time barriers, and we can talk about time blocking on another episode. But you say from 4 to 6 every single day, I'm going to be holding an open house, which means I'm prospecting and door knocking from 2 to 4. Then I'm there from 4 to 6, and then I have time set up to do tours afterwards. I'm going to be productive while I'm in the house. I'm going to be calling my sphere. I'm going to be doing something. I'm going to be calling the neighborhood, maybe doing my open house calls for tomorrow, today, right? Whatever it might be. And then when someone comes in, use the script, get to know them, add to your list. And if you're going to be working, work from a storefront, and there's no better storefront for a real estate agent than a listing.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've done opens in my market for like tons of agents all around town. I mean, I've obviously done them at my own listings, but I do them for other people's listings all the time.
Yeah, and I used to get this objection in my own head. What if someone says no, right? And I started realizing there were brokerages that wouldn't let you hold an open house for them, right? And so at EXP, fortunately here, in Colorado, we have like over 600 agents. I can always find an agent that wants me to hold their listing open.
Yeah.
But if you're at an independent brokerage or a small brokerage, just start dialing for dollars.
Well, there are
price point list. Just 1 second, Lee. Pull up a price point list, right? And just start calling those agents. You'd say, hey, I'm Rick. Hey, Lee, it's Rick Jansen. Just saw your brand new listing at 123 Main Street. I was wondering if I could do you a little favor. Can I hold that open for you today from 4 to 6? Or anytime this week from 4 to 6? Can I hold it open for you this weekend from 1 to 4? Right? I know you're super busy. Probably don't do open houses anymore, but I know it'd be great exposure for your seller. And, quite frankly, I'd just love to meet a buyer. So, hey, if I find a buyer for your property, great. Or you can even go sweeten the pot and say, hey, if I find a buyer for your own listing, I'll just give it to you. Right? That's not my interest.
Right.
And they're gonna be like, what? Or you say, hey, I'll give you a 50% referral or 25% referral if I find an unrepresented buyer, right? Because I used to be, when I was an independent broker and I was a little more closed-minded, I used to be resentful when someone called to hold my listing open because I knew they were doing the work I should be doing.
Right.
And I didn't want them getting the buyer that I should be getting if I did the work, but I wasn't willing to do the work.
Yeah.
And so I kind of was grouchy, man. And I would turn people down. And now sometimes karma hits me in the face and pays me back. But you approach it with a smile and an open mind, and people warm up.
There's some phenomenal teams. Like I have some friends who are agents here in town, and like they're dying to have people hold their listings open. So that's like not the issue. I mean, I can think of 5 agents right now that have multiple listings who I could ping, and they'd be psyched. They'd be like, perfect. That's great. I'm so glad you're willing to do that.
Yeah. And anybody that has 3 to 5 active listings or plus, they know they should be, just to be helping their seller out. And if they don't,
they can't hold them all open as it is. Like somebody's got to do it. And they don't have they oftentimes don't have the amount of personnel to pull that off. And some of these are in fantastic neighborhoods.
And to that point, and I'm sorry, folks, we're running over, but this is this bonus session. When you're calling around and you find somebody that's that honeypot, right? They've got 5 to 10 listings. They don't have a team built up yet. They're getting to the point of being a little bit overwhelmed. And you start building a relationship of holding these houses open for them. Then you can start saying, well, hey, I notice you focus $800,000 plus. What do you do with the leads sub 800,000, right? I'm sure you get some leads that are like 250, 350. What about I just take those off your hands, right? You're running Facebook ads, you're running Google ads, how are you generating leads? I'm sure some stuff comes in that's just way below your pay grade. How about I pay you a 25% referral, but you just toss all those low price point leads to me, and I'll close them for you, and I'll pay you.
Right.
And maybe just the referral fees from the low price point ones. Maybe the referral fees that I pay you will cover your entire ad campaign, and you can focus on even higher price points. Would that help you out, Lee?
Yeah. See, that's the thing. I mean, that's the way. I mean, I've had opens where like it was obviously a phenomenal property. I picked up a buyer at that open that bought way beyond the price point of the home that I held open. And the other brokerage was super appreciative that I did it. They were like, yeah, you got the exposure. And that's the right mentality to have in our business. And that's actually why I love EXP, is because it's like all that mentality. It's this very collaborative, working together mentality. So.
Well, hey, I noticed we had 3 live viewers that stayed like the whole show. Thank you so much. Can you just do us a favor in the comments? Can you just like drop your name or drop a hi, or just put #live or something, just so we know who you are and can just reach out and thank you and give you a private one-on-one consultation if you'd like one. Just do that right now. Just drop it in the comments. And for anybody watching this after the fact, thank you. Tomorrow we're going to go deeper on all this stuff. And then Lee's going to take a couple days off. I'm going to bring in some guest hosts for the next few days. But we really appreciate your time today. And Lee, thank you. I love brainstorming with you. Obviously, we could talk about this all day because we went 10 minutes over.
Yep.
So let's just continue it tomorrow.
So, all right. Awesome, man. I'll see you then.
All right. Have a great day, buddy.
You too.
Bye.